مجمع الأندلس التعليمي، تعلم عصري ملهم بهوية وطنية وقيم إسلامية. مجمع الأندلس التعليمي، تعلم عصري ملهم بهوية وطنية وقيم إسلامية.
Dear students of grade 10, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you are all safe and healthy. Here I am, Mr. Ayman, your English teacher, and I want to say that I was really happy to meet many of you along this week, and I will be happier to see the others the coming days. I'm also pleased with each student who watched the videos and completed the tasks demanded. And now a new grammar lesson about what, where, when, actually about question words, direct and indirect questions. We will hopefully complete the missing gap with the appropriate question words needed. We aim also to answer 5 questions through analyzing a study box. We want as well to use the answers to correctly form 5 WH questions with reference to the word written in bold. And you will be given a homework at the end where you should compose 6 questions with reference to the words written in bold also. Ready? Ready? Let's start our lesson. What do we have here? Question words. If we want to ask about reason, we should use why. And if we want to ask about a person like Ahmed, we may need who. If we want to ask about time, you'll need when. And when you want to inquire about a place, the word where is needed. I think this lovely angel has something for you. So let's discover it. It's a web page, SlideShare, which offers you plenty of documents and information about many of the grammar lessons that you have, among which question words. Let's have a look on it. So this is a set of question words. I think you know all of them, or the majority at least, like who, when, where, why, what, which, and how. Let's learn about each of them. Who. It's a question word to talk or to ask about a person. An example, who knows the answer? The second question word is when, and it is used to talk about time. Like, when is your birthday? The next word is where, and we resort to where to inquire about places, as in, where are you from? And if you want to ask about reasons, you may employ why, saying, why are you so happy? What is used to ask about things and many other things, like in, what's the weather like today? This question word is probably one of the most used question words. And after that we have which, and which is used to talk about things, but it limits the choices. And to the next question word, how. It's generally used to ask about ways and manners in which actions are done, like in, how do you cook pizza or paella? But you should note that how is linked to other words to ask about other things, like in, how much, to ask about uncountable quantities, as in, how much money do I need? How is also attached to many to ask about countable quantities, and one example is, how many brothers do you have? It can also be linked to often to ask about frequency. How often do you visit your parents? In addition to old, saying how old to ask about age. How high, how long, how far to ask, for example, about distance. Whose is the last word in this list, and it is used to ask about possession. Whose car is this? It's not mine. And back to our angel. I think we should thank her. So thank you, little angel. And you, Ali, please open your student's book on page 78 to gain more information about WH question words. You can, of course, pause the video if you don't have a book. And let's relearn and remind you about the uses of some of the already seen question words. Who is used to ask about people and persons, either in a subject or object position, like in, who is your best friend? Whom is also used to ask about people, but only as an object, and generally it is preceded with a preposition, like, with whom are you going to the party, or to whom are you writing the email. Which is used for both people and things with a limited choice. Which students will participate in the survey? Or which of these jumpers do you like best? The next question word is what, and it is used to ask about things for unlimited choices, actions and activities, general descriptions, and specific information, and you have many examples. Whose, we have already seen, is used to ask about the owners, as in, whose pen is this? Why is employed to ask about reason and purpose, like in why did she call you? To inquire about time, you can use when, and one example is when are your parents coming? To ask about place, think to use where, saying, for example, where would you like to go tonight? How is used to ask about manner, as in how did you fix this? To ask about a particular piece of information, like in how far is to the station. It is also resorted to inquire about quantity, saying, for example, how much coffee is left. To ask about someone's health, how is your sister, how are you? And to ask about frequency, how often do you travel? To ask about the length, how long? To ask about the height, how high? To ask about the distance, how far is Khritiat, for example. In this same grammar reference, we want to learn about the subject and object questions. So, we talk about a subject question or about subject questions when we use the question words who, which, or what to ask about the subject of the verb. And we form the question with no need of any auxiliary verb. So, the form will be who, for example, plus a verb, and the verb is in the affirmative form with no need to any inversion. Some examples: who saw the accident? Tom saw the accident. What happened outside? An accident happened. We kept the same word order. In contrast, when we talk about object questions, we use who, which, and what, in addition to other question words, to ask about the object of the verb. And we form the question by putting the question word at the beginning and the verb next, but the verb is in the question form, so we need to invert. We resort to the verb inversion, and the question will appear like this question: who did you see at the restaurant? Who did you see at the restaurant? I saw Tom and John. What are you eating? I'm eating Chinese food. The same grammar reference informs us about indirect questions. And we use indirect questions when we want to ask for information, but an indirect question does not begin with a question word or with a WH question word, but actually begins with expressions and phrases like "Can you tell me?" and "Do you know?" or "I'd like to know," "I was wondering." And after these phrases, you put your question. let's make a comparison between a direct question and an indirect question. The first direct question is, where is the post office? If we want to ask about the same piece of information, but in a more polite way, we may say, can you tell me where the post office is? And not where is the post office. Another example, is the museum open today? This can be asked in a different way, saying, for example, do you know if the museum is open today? Again, note that there is no inversion and the verb comes after the subject. So, if the direct question begins with the question word, with a specific WH question word, the indirect question also begins with the same question word. And if the direct question does not begin with any of the known question words, the indirect question begins with if or whether. Here we are talking about yes and no questions and similar questions. In indirect questions, the word order is the same as in affirmative, normal, ordinary sentences, and note that the tense does not change. Pause the video, please, and let me ask you whether you have understood all what we have seen during the last few minutes. I was certain about it, but I want to make sure of it. So go back to page 15 and let's complete tasks A, B, C, and D. Ready? Read the instruction in A, please. Complete the questions below with question words. Pause the video and try to do it yourself. You just need to complete with the needed question word. Let's do it. 2. Are you going to give this gift to my cousin? 2. Are you going to give this gift to my cousin? It's a person, and we have 2. To whom? Because we need a question word that asks about a person. Let's go to B. The answer is the secretary. So we are asking about a person. So either we need who or whom, and it is at the beginning. So who can arrange the doctor's appointment for Mr. Smith? Number 3. The answer is my keys. It is an object, something. So, shall we use which or what? Yes? What? The 4th question's answer is about 10 miles. So we are asking about a distance, and we have far, so it is just. How far do you intend to go running every morning? To the next question, the answer is it's Martin's, means it belongs to Martin. He's just arrived. So we are asking about something that belongs to Martin. And which WH question word serves to ask about possession? Yes? Whose? Excellent. The sixth question is answered by if it snows heavily. So we are asking about a certain information, about a certain choice. Under which or what circumstances will the flight be cancelled? The flight is cancelled only if it snows heavily. The seventh question, we are asking about something where the answer is it's quite amazing. So it is a sort of an information, and I think we can use what or how. So what do you think? What is it like? Let's verify. Yes, it is. What is it like to take part in such an important event? It's quite amazing. And the last question is answered by the following sentence: I needed the money. So we are asking about a reason, and the question will be, why did you decide to look for a job during the school holidays? And now, to be, and remember, to be or not to be is not the question, but the question is how to be and for whom to be. Let's start with reading the questions down. Which question asks about the subject of the verb? And which question asks about the object of the verb? And in which question is the verb in question form, means in which question we resorted to verb inversion. Let's read what we have in the box. A asked B, saying, who lives on campus? And B answered, Leslie. A asked, who does Leslie live with? And B answered, she lives with Karen, her flatmate. So, in which question or which question asks about the subject of the verb? Number 2? Number 1? Yes? Number 1. Let's verify. The second question, which question asks about the object of the verb? Yes? Question 2? Great. And in which question is the verb in question form? In question form? In the second question. Great. You are doing very well today. And now to see. Someone to read the instruction? Write questions. The words in bold are the answers. Pause the video and I'm waiting for your answers. You can verify your answers. So, in the first question, we are asking about the milkshake and a donut, which is an object. So, we need inversion, and so we will say, what did you order at the cafe? The second question is asking about the red jacket that Greg bought. Also, it is an object. Again, we need the question form, and the question will be, which jacket did Greg buy? The third question is answering about Peter, who is the subject in the sentence, and so I think we don't need to invert anything. We can keep the same order, and the question will be, who is going bowling with Mark? The fourth question asks about Barney, and Barney is the object of the sentence. Again, we will need the question form, and our question will be, who do you want to visit tomorrow afternoon? The last question asks about a motorbike that crashed into that tree, and the motorbike is the subject. So the question will appear like, what crashed into that tree, with no inversion. And let's move to the last task. Read the examples and answer the questions. The questions are, what is the difference in word order between direct and indirect questions? And the second question is, how are indirect questions formed when the direct question does not begin with a question word? Let's focus on the first questions, both direct and indirect. What time does the train leave? Its indirect counterpart will be, what would you tell me what time the train leaves? The second question, can we check out later than 10 p.m.? As an indirect question, we may say, I'd like to know whether we can check out later than 12 p.m. Pause the video and prepare your answers, which should be something like the following. Direct questions have question word order, means an inversion between the verb and the subject, while the indirect questions have affirmative word order, means we keep the same order as in ordinary sentences. The answer of the second question, which is how are indirect questions formed when the direct question does not begin with a question word? When the direct question does not begin with the question word, the indirect question is formed with if or whether. And here we are at the end of this lesson. try to do task E as a homework, and when you try yourself, compare your answers to these. Thank you for attention and see you so soon.
مجمع الأندلس التعليمي، تعلم عصري ملهم بهوية وطنية وقيم إسلامية. مجمع الأندلس التعليمي، تعلم عصري ملهم بهوية وطنية وقيم إسلامية.